James Gray.
Madam Deputy Speaker, it's been a fascinating and well-balanced and intelligent debate covering a wide variety of topics so far, including the contribution from the Honourable Gentleman Member from Murray, who I'm delighted to follow, and who knows his stuff and who's made a useful contribution to the All-Party Group of the Armed Forces over the years, and I'm grateful to him for that. Although whether or not he and I will ever come to any kind of mutual understanding about what will happen to defence if, in the unlikely event of there being a Scottish independence is possibly rather remote. But nonetheless, I'm grateful to him for his remarks and for his help over the years. Madam Deputy Speaker, can I start by saying I'm rather regretful that the old tradition in Parliament of there being set-piece debates for defence, one time it was 6 debates a year, I seem to recall, and it was 3, I think. I know that the Right Honourable Gentleman, the Chairman of the Defence Select Committee, made representations to the Procedure Committee in which I sit on this subject, have now been abolished to be replaced by a bid being made by, in this case, the Defence Select Committee to the Backbench Business Committee for time. That means that defence, which really ought to be the greatest and heaviest duty of the nation, has to compete with other more topical or interesting or amusing subjects for debating time. And I think that's actually wrong. The Procedure Committee have considered whether or not there should be time given for set-piece debates of this kind, and they have undertaken to keep the subject under review. And I think it's always worth making the point that I actually think that we ought to have set-piece debates during the year for defence, for the Intelligence Security Committee, and for one or two other equally grave and weighty subjects which might not be quite as popular as some others. Madam Deputy Speaker, today's debate is particularly on the subject of defence personnel. And it's right that if the defence of the realm is our greatest duty, paying our respects and our thanks and our homage to the people who make that possible, our armed forces, should be very high on our list of priorities as a Parliament. And I'm therefore very glad that we have, in recent years, had the opportunity of welcoming back both brigades, 2 brigades a year coming back from Afghanistan, as we did very successfully the other day. And I'm grateful to Mr. Speaker, to the Black Rod, to the Sergeant at Arms and to others who make those parades possible. They are terribly important, I think, for Parliament to remember, to be shown physically the people that we have sent off to war. I think it's also terribly important from the point of view of the brigade. If I may, Madam Deputy Speaker, a quote from a letter which I received this morning from the brigade commander of the 12th Mechanised Brigade, who came into Parliament last week. The opportunity to celebrate and thank our young soldiers is rarely done in such a special way. Although respect for our soldiers is often talked about, the Parliamentary Parade and reception brought it firmly home to me that those sentiments are both genuine and heartfelt. Understanding this is particularly important for the more junior members in parade, as it's they who often face the gravest danger, and who all too often it's our youngest who are forced to make the ultimate sacrifice. When that price is paid, we know that they will never be forgotten. That response is often expressed by others as well, and last Monday confirmed that it's truly meant by those we serve. I think that Brigadier Chalmers' letter is of great importance in that it brings home to us that it's right and proper that we should pay our respects to these young soldiers. We should be aware that the things they do, just the discomforts they face, quite apart from the dangers they face, are things which very few people in this chamber would even possibly contemplate ever undergoing themselves. And I think it's right that we should take this opportunity of thanking and paying tribute to them for all they do. Something of a similar, of course.
Very briefly, from the dispatch box, can I absolutely echo what my honourable friend has just said? I pay tribute to the work that he does as chairman of the all-party group in helping to organise these homecoming parades. I've seen for myself on the faces of the troops how much they appreciate this, and so from where I sit, or where I now stand, can I endorse the value of these exercises and celebrate the achievements of the men who come back to Parliament.
And can I also ask the Minister, when he next stands at the dispatch box, that he faces the chamber, so A, we can hear what he says, and B, so he can see the chair, just in case there needs to be an intervention from the chair. Mr. James Gray.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And the Minister was simply overcome by the passion of what he was saying, that he forgot one or two of the conventions of this House, I know, but I'm most grateful to him for his extremely kind remarks. The All-Party Group for the Armed Forces, many of whose officers are in the chamber today, does, I think, do a useful job, and I'm very grateful to them for all the things they do. The honourable gentleman for Beckenham, sitting here as the chairman of the Army part of the All-Party Group, and the honourable gentleman for Plymouth Sutton, Plymouth Devonport, I beg his pardon. Sutton and Devonport being the chairman of that part of it, which looks after the Royal Marines. Of course.
Before my honourable friend gets back to the main substance of the debate, as he's mentioned that group, would he also say a word or two about the Armed Forces Parliamentary Scheme, with which both he and I have been long associated, and the magnificent work of Sir Neil Thorne and the amazing effect it has on creating links between parliamentarians and members of the armed forces?
My honourable friend not only anticipates what I was about to say, but also rips the heart out of the central part of the comments I'm just about to make. But I will return to what he had to say in one moment. The way in which the people of Britain respect our armed forces, Madam Deputy Speaker, has changed over the years. It was, after the last war, unanimous. We knew what our armed forces had done for us in the Second World War, and at certain times since there had been a similar increase in respect for our armed forces. But there have also been periods, I think particularly in, let's say, the 60s and the 70s, when knowledge of armed forces and respect for them was significantly lower. I pay respect to my own constituents, the good people of Royal Wootton Bassett, who played some part in that. The way that they welcomed home the fallen soldiers for 5 or 6 years before they handed that duty back to Brize Norton in the Prime Minister's constituency, I think they spoke for the nation in paying their respects to the way in which our armed forces had served. In a very quiet and modest and sensible way they did it. There was no pomp and ceremony. They just stood in the high street getting wet and bowing their heads at the appropriate moment. And I think that spoke for the way the people of Britain respect our armed forces. Now, I'm going to lead on from that, Madam Deputy Speaker, to say that I think something of similar transition has occurred in Parliament. Going back some 20 or 30 years, I suspect that after the retired brigadiers and soldiers from the Second World War had retired from this place, I suspect that knowledge of our armed forces and respect for them had significantly declined for a period, perhaps around about the mid-60s, early 70s, that kind of time, when there wasn't terribly much happening of a military kind. Most of our members of Parliament who had been soldiers, sailors or airmen had retired, and respect for and knowledge of the armed services had significantly got lower. Of course.
Thank you very much indeed. It's just that the one thing which happened during the course of the 1960s, certainly the late 60s and during the course of the 70s and the 80s, was of course the commitment that our troops played in Northern Ireland. And certainly there were a lot of Royal Marines who were there, and I'd like to pay tribute to them, and that certainly would have ended up by keeping everybody very much interested in what was going on within the military.
My honourable friend, who never misses an opportunity to speak up for the Royal Marines, is absolutely correct. And I was not for 1 second suggesting that these matters were entirely silent in this House, but merely that their prominence had somewhat declined at various stages over the last 40 to 50 years. Now, into that desert of knowledge, or relative desert of knowledge and awareness and understanding of our armed forces, came, and this is where my honourable friend from New Forest East did me a disservice a moment ago, came the figure of Sir Neil Thorne, who, realising the shortage of information and awareness in this House, invented and created the Armed Forces Parliamentary Scheme. That's 25 years ago this year. Sir Neil has since then run the event more or less single-handed with help from a variety of people, but he's been the absolute driving force behind it. He's made it, gone through all sorts of different changes. At one time when I joined it in 1997, it was extremely small. There was one MP from each side attached to each of the four services. This year, I understand there's something of the order of 70 people, I think, serving under the AFPS, including people, MEPs, some clerks of the House, Madam Deputy Speaker, members of the House of Lords, and others. Now, it seems to me that the work which the Armed Forces Parliamentary Scheme under Sir Neil has done has significantly increased the level of understanding and awareness of our armed forces, and in particular the job which actually boys and girls on the ground do. Members of Parliament now, a significant cadre of members of Parliament, truly understand exactly what happens on the ground. And it seems to me that the embedding of MPs for up to 22 days a year, wearing some form of uniform perhaps or perhaps not, but certainly getting absolutely intimately involved with what our armed forces do at a variety of different levels, is central to the excellence of the understanding which the Armed Forces Parliamentary Scheme has brought to this place. In that context, I think it's probably known around the House there will be some changes coming in the Armed Forces Parliamentary Scheme. Sir Neil has indicated that he would like to see changes, and the Secretary of State and Mr. Speaker have joined with him in that, and it will be re-established soon as a charitable trust under 9 trustees, and we very much look forward to the continuation scheme under the slightly new format that there will then be. But there are 2 things that are central to this. The first is that it seems to me essential that the Armed Forces Parliamentary Scheme should remain as it is, or very much like it is, for 25 and 50 years to come. It would be no good at all if right now we said, that's it, it's been great, let's say goodbye to it. It mustn't. The Armed Forces Parliamentary Scheme plays a terribly important part in all of our debates here in Parliament. And secondly, it seems to me that we in this House, and there are all sorts of ways that we should find of doing this, perhaps in this 25th anniversary of the foundation scheme, it's terribly important that we should pay due respect to the fantastic contribution to the defence of the realm and to our understanding of the defence of the realm, which Sir Neil personally and his wife have made. He's done a great job, and it's right that we here should acknowledge it. Of course.
Does my honourable friend agree that not only has Sir Neil put in a large amount of his own time and considerable expertise, but also a large amount of his own money into creating the thing, and that it has proved so successful that it's been copied in other countries around the world, and that it has also given rise to similar schemes in relation to things like the police, for example?
My right honourable friend is absolutely right. Sir Neil's personal contribution, both in terms of time and of money, and indeed of the excellent Lady Thorne, has been significant. There's a similar scheme established in Australia at the moment, and as my right honourable friend says, there is a similar police scheme in existence in this Parliament, and who knows where else this might spread. Now, it seems to me, Madam Deputy Speaker, on an occasion like this, when we're talking about defence personnel, it's right that we should pay our respects and our honour to those people who do things that we here in this chamber would not possibly contemplate doing, although 1 or 2 of us have done it. The Honourable Gentleman for Filton and Bradley Stoke, just not his place right at the moment, but he has the great advantage of having spent 6 months in Afghanistan, 36 hours in contact with the enemy, firing the light gun at the enemy. Very few members of Parliament have achieved anything of that kind, and I think we should pay respects to him for that. It's right that we should make use of the Armed Forces Parliamentary Scheme, the All-Party Group for the Armed Forces and the Welcome Homes, or indeed the respects that people pay down the streets of Royal Wood and Bassett, or now Carterton in Oxfordshire. The people of the United Kingdom and the people of this House understand what great contribution our armed forces make to the defence of our realm. It's right that we should convert that understanding into visible signs of it, and I think that those various organisations do that very well.
Yeah.